Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod Science Classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see current affairs of 1st November 2021. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 7 topics which are very much relevant to UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us see the topics that we are going to discuss in this lecture. So first topic is about no time-bound pacts on climate change at G20 summit. So G20 summit concluded. So in this summit, they didn't came up with any time-bound pacts. So we are going to discuss some details which are given in this topic. So here you need to focus on some facts regarding this G20 as well. So this will be important from international relations, which mainly comes under our GS paper 2. And next topic is about row over caste split of MG Narega wage. So what happened? Already you know that this MG Narega it is rural employment guarantee scheme. So under this scheme, I think 3 days ago we discussed that. So there are no funds which is remaining left. So many states are mainly having some negative balance regarding this MG Narega scheme. And now this article says that, so in this wages also there is a caste split that is seen. So now let us try to see some details. So this article will be important from schemes, programs and policies of government, which mainly comes under GS paper 2. And next topic is it is about ahead COP26 Indian site highlights emissions gap. So this is talking about COP26. So here what happened? So this article mainly says that India mainly released one important website. Okay. So that website which is mainly showing that there is an emission gap between developed and as well as developing countries. So this is a very important article which is important from our environment and ecology, which mainly comes under GS paper 3. And next topic is about informal sector shrank sharply. So if you are studying our economy, we will be coming across two important keywords, that is formal and as well as informal. Okay, so this article mainly focusing on this informal sector. So this informal sector has been shrank. So we are going to discuss details and we are going to understand what is this informal sector as well. So that will be important from our economy point of view, which mainly comes under our GS paper 3. And next topic is about Punjab does a deep dive for this Indus dolphins. So this article mainly talking about census of this Indus dolphins. Actually till recently we mainly found that these Indus dolphins are very much endemic to Pakistan. But now in Beas River we can see this Indus dolphins are present. So now we are going for this census of this Indus dolphins. So this article it is very important from our environment and ecology, which mainly comes under our GS paper 3. And this topic will be at most important from our prelims. And next topic is about mental health, especially in prisoners. So this will be important from health, which comes in the GS paper 2. And as well as we can also write this article under our polity, which mainly comes in the GS paper 2. And next topic is about living on death row with illness. So this article mainly talking about nutrition in children, especially after this reopening of schools, what can be done. So that is a thing which mainly said. So this is again important from education as well as health, which comes under our GS paper 2. So these are list of the topics that we are going to discuss in this lecture. So let's get started with our discussion and let us see first topic. Title says no time bound pacts on climate change at G20. So it is mainly talking about a climate change pact at G20. So here what happens? So this article says that there is no commitments to end domestic coal consumption. So this is some central theme which is mainly given here. So now let us try to understand this article first of all. So in day before yesterday, we studied that yes, our Prime Minister is going to attend this G20 summit. So now there is conclusion of this summit which mainly happened. Now let us try to see some important context. If you see context, it mainly says that India mainly pushed for safeguarding the interest. So India mainly pushed for safeguarding the interest of the developing world. Our Prime Minister mainly addresses G20 summit sessions regarding climate change and sustainable development. So in this context, our Prime Minister mainly said for safeguarding interest of developing countries. So here our India mainly focused for safeguarding of developing countries in the world. And this is the thing which mainly said by our Prime Minister in his address in G20 summit. So this summit session which is regarding climate change and as well as sustainable development. Okay, so in this G20 summit our Prime Minister participated and he mainly focused regarding safeguard interest of these developing countries. So if we're talking about some details, so this G20 summit concluded and there were no time bound agreements. Okay, no time bound agreements. They were reached by leaders of the world's top economies. Okay, that means within so and so time limit, what should be the target? They didn't come up with this type of targets in this summit. And here, if you see some more details, it mainly says that, so they mainly focused on providing about $100 billion per year mainly to counter this climate change, and also they focused on pushing for greater vaccine equity or equality. So two things which are mainly said in this summit here is financing, okay, climate financing of $100 billion per year, okay, $100 billion per year, especially to counter this climate change, and as well as they really focused on greater vaccine equality. That means for some countries, for example developed countries, they have technology, they have manufacturing units, so they are mainly producing these vaccines and they are using for their country. But what is the condition of these least developed countries and as well as developing countries? They do not have proper technology, and these developed countries, they will be not going for transfer of technology and there will be no manufacturing. So because of these countries which are least developed countries and as well as developing countries, they do not have proper vaccine accessibility. If you see, I think 1 week or 10 days ago we discussed one article regarding vaccination in South Africa. Okay, so in South Africa and as well as African countries, so there is a very less vaccination, that is less than 2% of population they got vaccinated. So now you can understand, in developed countries they have went for first dose, second dose, and they are thinking about booster dose, but in some countries they do not have even proper vaccination. So because of this, in this G20 summit they also talked about vaccine equality or vaccine equity. And G20 countries, they also committed for ending of international financing all new coal plants by the end of 2021, because these coal power plants that are leading to a lot of amount of emissions. So whenever there are emissions which are released into our atmosphere, that will mainly leads to increasing global warming. So because of global warming, now we are seeing the effects of global warming, especially in India. That is increasing of melting of glaciers, increase in the formation of this glacial lake outburst floods, and as well as the glacial lakes which are mainly increasing in these glaciers, and there is increasing of sea level rise, right? So because of all these things, now we are facing irreversible impact of this climate change. So because of this, these G20 countries, they also committed for ending of international financing for all new coal plants by the end of 2021, but there is no mention of domestic commitments. So this is one cause of concern. And this one is among other highlights of the statement. Here they said that WHO, World Health Organization, it need to recognize more vaccines. So in India we have two vaccine candidates, that is Covishield and as well as Covaxin. So Covishield got approval from WHO, but Covaxin did not. So here on November 3rd, there is a final decision which is going to be taken by WHO. We need to wait till November 3rd whether this Covaxin got approval from this WHO or not, right? And they also talked about finances, that is climate financing, and as well as technology. Okay, and they also talked about finances, technology, even for vaccine production. For example, they want to create these mRNA hubs in South Africa, Brazil, Argentina, etc., such that they are mainly focusing on international public-private financing, especially for these green projects. So in economy, you will come across two important keywords: brownfield projects and greenfield projects. So let me know what is the difference between this brownfield and greenfield, because here we are talking about this greenfield projects. So already I discussed number of times. So it is your turn to let me know what is difference between this brownfield and as well as greenfield. So now let us try to see some facts regarding this G20. So if you're talking about G20, it is also called as group of 20. Okay, so this is informal group. So this is informal group which mainly contains 19 countries along with European Union. And this G20 membership mainly comprises of mix of world's largest and advancing and even emerging economies. And because of this G20 mainly contributes for 2/3 of world's population and 85% of global gross domestic product and 80% of global investment and 75% of global trade. So these are some important things that you need to remember regarding this G20. And who are the members? Members will be also very important from your prelims point of view, you have to remember. So members include Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India. India is member of G20, don't forget about this. And this one is Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Republic of Korea, that is South Korea, and Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkey, UK and US, and last European Union. So these are members of this G20. So these are some important things that you need to remember. And now let us move on to next topic. Row over caste split of MGNREGA wage. So it is mainly talking about MGNREGA wages. So already we discussed about some background regarding this MGNREGA. So MGNREGA mainly stands for Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. So it is a Rural Employment Guarantee Act, but not in urban areas. So it is a rural area scheme. So here, why there is a caste split, we need to understand that. So if you are talking about context, it mainly says that, so for poor villagers in Rajasthan, Ajmer district, so a good Deepavali mainly depends upon the wages they are going to get from this MGNREGA scheme. So under this MGNREGA scheme, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, so they will be getting wages, right? So recently wages has been increased 20 rupees in this COVID-19 pandemic. So let me know what is the present wage that is given under this MGNREGA scheme in comment box. So whenever I am asking questions, no one is responding. I don't know why. So people, whenever I am asking questions, please respond, because it is for your sake, not my sake. So this will be helpful for people to understand and to recall whatever the things they studied. It will be also helpful for revision purpose, and if you don't know anything, you will know by doing research. So this is for your benefit at large. So please try to comment in comment section. So how much amount of the wage that will be given under this MGNREGA currently? So let me know here, because here poor villagers in this Rajasthan Ajmer district, so they are good Diwali. Diwali festival is on November 4th, right? So might be on November 5th there will be no Hindu edition will be published. So on November 5th there will be no Hindu analysis, right? And on November 4th we are going to have our Diwali festival. So here whenever we want to celebrate any festival, we need to have money in our hands to do anything, right? So to get a good clothes or new clothes, and to decorate our houses with diyas, and also to make some specials in our home. So for all those things we need money. So for this poor villagers who are belonging to this Ajmer district in Rajasthan, so a good Diwali mainly depends upon the wages which will be given under this MGNREGA scheme. So if you're talking about details, it mainly says that, so what happened now in this MGNREGA scheme, because of these wages, so the tensions which mainly had increased, because it mainly says that some sections of people like ST and as well as ST people, they got their wages within 15 to 20 days, but other sections of people, they didn't get their wages and they are waiting from since 2 months. So because of this, what happened, it caused a lot of worry that there was some mess up, and as well as it created some suspicion as well as tensions among the villagers who enrolled under this MGNREGA scheme. So if we're talking about some facts regarding this MGNREGA, so this scheme was introduced as a social measure, and it mainly guarantees the right to work. Okay, it mainly guarantees right to work here. So under this scheme, normally there will be 100 days of compulsory employment that will be given per year for people who enrolled into this scheme, and it is mainly based on unskilled labor but not skilled thing. So if you're talking about key objectives of this scheme, so here if you're talking about this scheme, they will provide about 100 days of compulsorily guaranteed work for unskilled labor, and they will be also helpful for social inclusion, and will be also strengthening livelihood base of rural people, and it will be also helpful in creation of durable assets in rural areas. For example, let us take wells, let us take ponds, let us take roads, canals, etc. And it will be also helpful for reducing of urban migration. So whenever there is no livelihood in rural areas, the people, they will tend to move to urban areas in search of jobs. So because of this, we can understand what will be the problems of migration. So if you have completed your human geography, so you will be coming across this topic called as migration. There you will be studying about what are the pull factors, what are the push factors, and different types of migration, and even you will be studying about what are the problems of migration, right? So here you have to know this. So whenever you understand what are the problems of migration from rural areas to urban areas, then you will be understanding what is the importance of creating of employment or livelihood opportunities in rural areas, and then you can appreciate this thing. Okay, and also it will be helpful for creation of rural infrastructure. So these are some important key objectives of this scheme. And now let us move on to next topic. It is about COP26. Title says ahead of COP26, Indian site highlights emission gap. So now ahead of this COP26, on November 1st, that is on November 1st, we are going to have this COP26, that is today. So what happened yesterday, India came up with a site, and this site or website, okay, website which is mainly made up by our Indian climate experts, and it mainly shows about historical carbon dioxide emissions, CO2 emissions of developed countries. So it mainly says that there is a huge gap between CO2 emissions of developed and as well as developing countries. So this is about some important gist of this topic actually. So now let us try to see context. If you see context, it mainly says that a day ahead of commencement of this COP26, that is, this news it is yesterday's, right? So here on today, on November 1st, we are going to have this COP26. So because of this, yesterday here, what happened, Indian climate experts and India came up with officially endorsed a website. So this website, which mainly shows about historical carbon dioxide emissions, it mainly shows our historical carbon dioxide emissions of developed and as well as developing countries. So if you focus on some important details, it mainly says that, so the important aim of this database, it is to highlight what is the gap, what is the disparity between emissions of developed and as well as developing countries. So whenever there is a report which showing that there is a large or huge gap between these developed and as well as developing countries, then what happened, we can take some effective measures, right, to control that. So because of this, we came up with this website. So the key fact which mainly showed in this website is, it is only that developed countries, they must commit steeper targets. For example, if you are talking about developing and least developed countries, if they come up with the target, they can be come up with within a 1 month. For example, 1 month they will be doing this for 1 month. So in this context, developed countries, they need to come up within 5 days or 1 week, such that what happened, we can have a steeper targets that will be dealt by these developed countries, such that it will be helpful in controlling of our climate change. Yes, there is a need of difference, right? So already these developed countries, they released as much as possible emissions into atmosphere, and now they are saying that developed countries saying that, so developing countries and least developed countries, they need to go for reducing of their emissions. So how much fair it is? It is not a fair thing. So because of this, whenever we are having this type of websites and whenever we are showing yes there is a disparity, means now developed countries, they will be having a chance to come up with a steeper targets such that they can arrest emissions. So if you're talking about especially India it is the third largest emitter of this carbon dioxide emissions. So if you're talking about carbon emissions, India it is third. So second is China and first it is USA. First is USA, second is China and third is our India. So we are mainly releasing lot of amount of carbon emissions annually. So if you see here, if you are talking about historical emissions, so India it is the sixth largest historical emissions. And if you are focusing on this climate with per capita, that means per person emission, it is a very, very low. So in this way here, if you are talking about India mainly demands for climate justice. That means here, if you're talking about tackling with this global warming, it is not at all done by one country. We need a combined efforts, that is called as social justice. And here this website, which is mainly intended to debunk narrative which mainly provided by many developed countries and as well as even some global non-governmental organization, and these now they need to put attention continuously on developing countries, okay, and constantly demanding greater commitment and action from them. So because of this, mainly to debunk this narrative, so India came up with this type of website, so which shows mainly there is disparity between developed and as well as developing countries, right? And now if you're talking about climate equity monitor, so here we are mainly focusing on this equity and as well as climate action data and even evidence based perspective, and we will encourage rigorous discussion on critical issues, and as well as we are going to come up with engage experts from all the nations. So we are mainly focusing on equity and as well as we are going to focus on climate action, okay, and even we are focusing on evidence based perspective. So in this way it will be finally encouraging vigorous discussions, okay, on the crucial issues. And if you're talking about what is this climate equity monitor, so climate equity monitor, it is a site. The important aim here, it is to monitor performance of Annex 1 countries. So Annex 1 parties on Annex 1 countries mainly includes developed countries, right, and Annex 2, okay, and non-Annex 1 parties, they include mainly developing countries. So these are some important things that you need to remember. And now let us move on to next topic. Title says informal sector shrank sharply in 2020-21. So it is mainly focusing on this informal sector. So it is according to SBI report. So if you see this in infographic, it mainly says that if you are comparing 2017-18 to 2020-21, so there is a sharp decrease. Agriculture, it was 97.1, now it is nil. So if you see in mining, it was 22.5% and now it decreased to 15 to 17%. Manufacturing 22% earlier and now it is 10 to 21%. And construction 74.5% of informal workers and now it is 35 to 40%. So in this way, what happened? There is decreasing of this informal sector shrank sharply in year 2020 to 2021. So now let us try to talk about this topic in a very great detail. So this report mainly released by SBI first of all. So if you are talking about some context, it mainly says that signaling a great shift towards formalization of the economy, the large share, okay, the share of large informal sector in overall economic activity, which mainly dipped sharply in 2020-21. So this article mainly says that according to SBI report, so informal sector had been decreased, okay, in 2020-21. So this is our context. And if you are talking about some more details, it mainly says that the share of informal economy may have shrunk to not more than 20% of our economic output of about 52% in 2017-18. So if you see in 2017-18, so here informal sector it is about 52%, and now in this 2021 to 2020 and 2020 to 21 it was 20%. And we can see there is some wide variations in this formalization levels that can be seen in different sectors. In different sectors, we are saying there is a different variations. For example, it is different from agriculture, different for industrialization, that is manufacturing, and it is also different for different things. So here we can say there is a wide variations in formalization levels that is seen at different sector. And if you are talking about our informal sector, which mainly possibly at a maximum of 15% to 20% of formal GDP. So it mainly accounts for 15 to 20% of formal GDP of 2020 to 21. So if you are talking about some important data which is given by IMF and as well as National Sample Survey. So if you are talking about this IMF data, it mainly stated that it mainly estimated that the share of India's informal economy in the gross value added, it is about 53.9% in year 2011 to 2012, and it mainly improved marginally to 52.4%, that too in 2017-18. Okay, that too in 2017-18 it was like 52.4%. So this is according to IMF, okay, International Monetary Fund. And if you are talking about National Sample Survey of 2014, so which mainly said that around 93% of workforce which mainly earned their livelihoods as informal workers. So National Sample Survey says that it is about 93% of workforce which mainly earned their livelihoods as informal workers. And informal sector which mainly consists of own account or unorganized enterprises. Okay, so it mainly contains own account or unorganized enterprises here. Okay, so if you're talking about SBI reports which mainly suggest that in agriculture sector there was shrunk of 97.1% of this GVA in 2017-18, that mainly decreased to 70 to 75% in year 20 to 21. That means we can say there is a drastic penetration that is seen because of some Kisan credit cards. And if you're talking about some facts regarding this informal sector, according to ILO, so it mainly says that range of economic units, okay, so the range of economic units which are mainly owned and as well as operated by individuals and employ one or more employees on a continuous basis. So what are this informal sector? According to ILO, it mainly says that so majorly so and so thing which mainly owned and operated by individual and also employ one or more employees on a continual basis. So these mainly comes under this informal sector. So if you see further, so informal sector mainly includes either farmer, either agricultural laborers, either owners of small enterprises and people who are working in those enterprises and people who are those self-employed. Okay, they will come under this informal sector. So this is gist of this topic and I hope it is very much clear. And now let us try to see next topic. Title says Punjab does a deep dive for Indus dolphins. So here if you see this image, you can see this is the image of Indus dolphin. So this Indus dolphin will become very important for your prelims especially. And this article will be important from your environment and ecology, which mainly comes under your GS paper 3. First, let us try to see context. If you see context, it mainly says that the census of one of the world's most threatened cetacean. So this is nothing but our Indus River dolphin, and the scientific name of this Indus River dolphin here is Platanista gangetica minor. Okay, Platanista gangetica minor. So this is scientific name of this Indus dolphin. You need not remember the scientific name, just for your knowledge I said this scientific name. So actually this Indus river, it is a fresh water, right? So in rivers we will be having fresh water, and this dolphin which is living in this river, it is a freshwater dolphin, and now it is mainly found in this river Bias as well. So because of this, now we are going for census, okay, census of this Indus dolphin. So now Punjab Wildlife Preservation Wing, it is mainly going for protection of these dolphins, and also they are going for protection of these dolphins and also even their natural habitat. So if you see some details, it mainly says that here Indus River dolphin, which mainly classified as endangered in our IUCN Red List. So in IUCN Red List, it is listed as endangered. So this is very important. And until recently, it was believed that so these dolphins, they are mainly endemic to Pakistan. But we can see these dolphin populations also seen in this river Bias, and especially in this Punjab's Harike Wildlife Sanctuary. So since its discovery, okay, so our Punjab Department of Forest and Wildlife Preservation, so they came with this participation partnership with this Worldwide Fund, that is WWF, and they came up with analysis of current distribution and even habitat use and as well as population abundance of this mammal. Okay, so now here Indus River dolphin was declared as a state aquatic animal of Punjab in year 2019. So this will be very important prelims fact, and not only for prelims but also for other state public service examinations. And if you see some facts regarding this dolphin, so here what happened, why it is in news, because now these central government, that is government of India, which is mainly going for enumeration of this freshwater dolphins. That means we are going for census. At state level also, Punjab government has taken initiative especially for conservation of these dolphins and as well as its habitat. So what are the steps which are taken by this Punjab government? So we are going to see that. So first one is they went for research. Okay, and they also focused or engaged with riparian communities. That means the communities which are present very near to this areas, and they mainly focused community led biological monitoring of these dolphins, and also villagers around this hot spot sites of this dolphin occurrence, they will be developed as models of community led conservation. So they mainly focused on community led conservation of these dolphins, and also came up with some extension programs. So extension programs that will be held mainly to develop a group of dedicated individuals, and those individuals, they are called as Beas Dolphin Mitras. And this project will also even embark, that will be also focusing on dolphin ecotourism. So now let us try to see some facts regarding this dolphin. So name here is Platentista minor, and habitat, they mainly one of the important 4 river dolphin species which are mainly seen in freshwater, and these Indus River dolphin, which is mainly second most endangered freshwater river dolphin. So at present there are about 1800 dolphins in Indus in Pakistan, and if you see in Beas, it will be like 8 to 10 dolphins are present in Beas. And if you see IUCN category, they are listed under endangered. So what are the threats whenever we are going for construction of dams and as well as barrage? So that will be splitting this population into 2 groups, right? And other reasons includes poaching and as well as entanglement in fishing nets and as well as river pollution. So these are some important threats for this population of this Indus dolphins. And if you are talking about characteristics of these dolphins, so these dolphins, they are normally brown or gray in color. So they are normally brown or gray in color, and they functionally they are blind, but they can catch their prey by echolocation. Okay, by echolocation. So what is the echo? Echo means if you are making any sound, so whenever it is hitting the object, so it will be returning back, it will be reflected back. So based on that reflection, this animal will be identifying that prey. So it is nothing but echolocation. So this is the thing which mainly practiced by bats. So this is just of this topic, and now let us move on to next topic. It is about living on death row with illness. So this is talking about mental health conditions of death row prisoners. That means prisoners who are mainly having this death penalty. So what are the health problems that we are mainly facing, and what is this death penalty? So that mainly discussed in this topic. And now let us try to discuss this. And this topic will be important regarding polity, which mainly comes in a GS paper 2, and even health, which mainly comes under our GS paper 2 itself. And this topic will be important from your mains, not from your prelims. Okay, and now let us try to see this topic in detail. So why this mental health is in news? Because in last month, one report mainly released by National Law University Delhi. So this report title here is Death Worthy, a mental health perspective of the death penalty. So it is talking about mental health perspective of death penalty. So here this report mainly explores what are the mental concerns of death row prisoners. So prisoners who got this death penalty or going to get this death penalty, so what are the mental concerns which are mainly faced by those people? So this is about this study. So if you're talking about India, it is remaining among 55 retentionist countries where death penalty is still handed down. Okay, so where, so we can say like some in India for some crimes there is still death penalties available, is will be given. For example, recently in 2012 Delhi gang rape case, so recently they were came up with this death penalty, right? So here for some heinous crimes in India we have death penalty, and India is among 35 countries which are mainly imposing this death penalty as punishments for the crime they did. So if you're talking about highlights of this report, it mainly says that the report mainly represents the detailed histories of about 88 death row prisoners in India. So out of these 88 prisoners, 30 they were found with depressive illness, and 19 they were facing anxiety disorders, and also 3 prisoners they mainly shows having some psychotic episodes. So in this way these people are facing some mental distress or mental illness. Okay, so if you see here, one important particular concern here, it is about 8 had attempted even suicides. Okay, 8 people they attempt suicides, and nearly 11% of this death row prisoners they were diagnosed with even intellectual disabilities, and most of them they have defects in intellectual functioning. So in intellectual functioning, and as well as we can see like intellectual disabilities that mainly faced by these people. So according to this United Nations Commission on Human Rights, they mainly said that not to impose death penalty, not to impose death penalty for especially people who are suffering from this mental disorder. Why? So whenever people who are suffering from this mental disorder, whenever they do not have proper intellectual abilities or intellectual functioning, so here people, okay, people what they will do, if they are having some mental illness or intellectual disabilities, they do not take a proper decision, right? So because of this it mainly jeopardize, or it mainly violates right to fair trial. So right to fair trial which is enshrined in our constitution, so this right mainly jeopardized whenever people who are suffering from this mental illness or intellectual disabilities they are awarded with this death penalty. So these are 2 important cases that you need to remember. First one, it is about state of Maharashtra versus Santosh Maruti Mane in 2014. So in this case Mumbai or Bombay High Court, okay, here we have Bombay High Court. So Bombay High Court mainly gave with judgment, it mainly confirmed the death penalty for a man who had gone on bus rampage. So because of this bus rampage that led to killing of 9 lives. Okay, so here this case mainly says that mere prior incidents of treatment for this mental disorder is not sufficient. Okay, we have to establish a time of commission of an offense, whether whenever that person, whenever he was doing his offense, whether he is having a sound mind or not, whether he is capable of understanding the consequences or not, whether he is knowing that, even knowing that if he does means, so there will be death penalty that will be given. And next case here is Shatrughan Chauhan versus Union of India 2014. So here Supreme Court mainly said that mental illness should warrant the commutation of death sentence to life imprisonment. So whenever any person who is suffering from this mental illness, so here whenever whatever the punishment that given for that so and so crime, if it is a death penalty, so whenever that person who is mainly having this mental illness means that death penalty should be communicated to this life imprisonment. So if you open your Lakshmikant and if you're talking about pardoning powers of president, then you can come across 5 important terms like commute, respite, etc., pardon, etc. So under that there is one important word, that is commute. Commute means we are going to decrease here punishment. Here decreasing from death sentence to life imprisonment, right? So despite this, court do not consider mental illness as a mitigating factor, but courts will go for imposing of punishment. So the report also highlights that another important and neglected aspect of mental illness, that is social determinants. So those social determinants mainly includes, for example, poverty. Mental illness is more commonly seen in poor people. Okay, so mental illness are mostly likely to end up in poverty. So even some children who are facing child abuse, then significantly in their life they will be having some mental illness in adulthood. So these are the some important cause of concern, and we need to also take into the social determinants into consideration. And if you're talking about way forward, what can be done? For example, in Bachchan Singh versus State of Punjab 1980 case, so our apex court, that is Supreme Court, mainly laid down some guidelines. Okay, guidelines that court need to take into consideration before imposing death penalty to any person. Okay, so those guidelines will also include even mental health issues. For example, extreme mental or emotional disturbance at the time of incidents, they need to be taken into consideration. Okay, and we need to take psychosocial approach that will allow courts to take into account the life history of individual, and even we can relate that life history to mental state of that individual. So this is just of this topic, and I hope it is very much clear. And next topic is about getting nutrition back on the school high table. So this article mainly talking about nutrition in children after this opening of or reopening of schools. So this article will be important regarding GS paper to under education, and even we can connect with this health and even some schemes, programs and policies of government. For example, here we are talking about PM Poshan, right? And if you're talking about this article, which mainly says that because of this COVID-19 cases which are reducing across the country, and several companies and several institutions, they had been started reopening. So here schools also started reopening, right? So now we are as a part of society, now we have a role, that is we need to focus on nutrition of children. So whenever we are focusing on nutrition of children, that will be helpful for maintaining of good immunity power, good health, and that will be helpful mainly to address some new challenges that are going to come up in your future, right? And now we need to remember about significant nutrition challenges that we are facing. Even before this COVID-19 pandemic, also India is facing nutritional challenges. For example, we are facing with malnutrition, stunting, and as well as wasting, obesity, etc. So because of this, now we need to focus on child's nutrition. Okay, and this situation of this COVID-19 pandemic, which made a better understanding of current nutrition and nutritional requirement for a healthy body and as well as a healthy mind. So in this context, we need to focus on how to tackle this triple burden. So what of this triple burden? We are facing undernutrition, we are facing overweight or obesity, and sometimes we are facing deficiency of this micronutrients. So these micronutrients, for example, iron is very important for our hemoglobin, and we have zinc it is very much important, and even calcium and as well as several vitamins, they will comes under part of this micronutrient. So we need to focus on this micronutrients as well. So this triple burden of malnutrition, this need to be identified, and we need to understand that, and we need to address that triple burden of malnutrition. So if we're talking about malnutrition, means we are not taking adequate amount of nutrients that are required by our body. So malnutrition, it may be either any form that can put children and even adolescents at a risk of especially compromised immune function, and because of this, it make mainly these children most vulnerable to infections. To understand this, we need to come up with disruptive and as well as social environment factors that mainly affect. Okay, so here finally author says that we need to focus on a balanced diet. So balanced diet means we need to come up with each and everything, like we need to take carbohydrates, we need to take fats, we need to take proteins, we need to take vitamins, micronutrients, macronutrients, everything should be taken in a current balanced thing. So this is called as a balanced diet. So it is very much essential mainly to look beyond minimum calorie requirements, and we need to ensure that children, they need to consume a balanced diet. Okay, for example, they need to be given proper foods, for example 200 grams to 500 grams of foods, and as well as micronutrients they need to be given. Okay, and they need to be given like whole grains. So then we can see the child development will be there, and it will be also reflect in our near future, right? So providing children with a balanced diet, which mainly helpful for having essential nutrients, and that will be provide solid foundation for active and as well as healthy life of the children. And actually we are mainly overlooking about this micronutrients, but these micronutrients are very important for production of enzymes, hormones, and this will be plays an important role even in maintenance of a good immune system and as well as healthy growth and development of children. So micronutrients are mainly available in fruits and as well as vegetables, greens and as well as nuts, legumes, whole grains. So they need to be given and they will play an important role, especially in adaptive and as well as native immunity. That means immunity which we are getting, and as well as adaptive means which we are going to adapt in future, right? So in this way this will be very much helpful. And if you're talking about noon meal scheme, that is midday meal scheme in schools, so now we need to talk about this PM Poshan, that is Pradhan Mantri Poshan Shakti Nirman Yojana. So it is a midday meal program with a new avatar. So because we are also coming up with this Bal Vatikas, so in this Bal Vatikas, that means if there is any school, in school ground, we are going for planting of trees and as well as planting of vegetables, etc., such that those can be used in preparation of that midday meals, noon meal. So because of this it will be very helpful. And under this PM Poshan, it is mainly focusing to provide about 450 calories of energy and 12 grams of proteins for primary students, and about 700 kilocalories and 20 grams of protein for upper primary children. So in addition to that, they are mainly going for monitoring of hemoglobin levels. Hemoglobin levels are very important, okay, that will helps to mainly control anemia. And they will be going for appointment of nutritional experts to ensure hemoglobin and proper growth status. They are continuously monitored, and they will be also focusing on this Nutri Gardens, that is Bal Vatikas, right? So under this COVID-19 or no COVID-19, good immunity will be very much helpful, and that will lay an important foundation for long-term well-being. So we need to focus on good nutrition, and we need to focus on safe food, and as well as we need to focus on positive lifestyles. So these are cornerstones of our great immune function. So this is just of this topic, and I hope it is clear. So by this I am concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to Rathod's IAS and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. Thank you so much.